This is Dr. Karen Matheson to anyone who may be listening. All of this is just one big, terrible mistake, and not figuratively, I mean... Now, if you're hearing this, there still may be hope. You must find all the logs I left around the station and bring them back to UE Command as proof. They need to understand, and I need my family to know that I did everything I could. I don't know what Okay. I cannot believe I'm doing this. My name is Karen Matheson. I'm the chief scientist assigned to oversee the Prometheus 1 project by the United Earth Council. I'm 35... No, that's irrelevant. I am an MIT grad, majored in nanoscience, got involved with the UE space program straight out of college. Well, they have been paying for my education since my freshman year. And this is what I wanted, so... Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. But to be honest, if you're looking for something with more scientific merit, dear listener, I'd say you're a little bit fucked. Not only Major Tom is lonely up in space. Asteroid Deimos 875. It's where we are now, by the way. A bit of history is in order, I suppose. No one really knows who spotted it first, since UE engineers hardly ever get credit for their work. It's all a collaborative effort for the good of mankind and all that. We've known for quite some time that a single, extremely rare isotope of promethium, dubbed NX-01, exists on this rock. What's so special about it? Without going into too much detail, a cupful can power a 1 million citizen city for a month. We barely get a whiff of it to date, and now Deimos is finally in our reach. I've spent the last 3 months in a temp barracks facility on the asteroid, but today, the main research station coupled with the mine was finally open for business. This is a relief because the atmosphere here, while habitable, doesn't exactly do wonders for my well-being. Oh, and by the way, I love my new laboratory. Sorry I had to say it. 20 years of sharing clothes with your male siblings does that to you. Anyway, back on topic. I received the first samples of NX-01 2 days ago, and naturally, I haven't slept since. This element is the single most fascinating turnover in my career. Preliminary tests show that it could self-replicate given a favorable environment. And if so, humanity might have finally hit the jackpot. For what seemed like the blink of an eye, we were alone in the universe. Then, the Vorus came and everything changed. That's not mine, it's something I read on a discarded piece of paper in the cafeteria. I don't think I'm competent to write frontier journalism, much less about first contact, but for better or worse. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Karen Matheson, reporting from deep space, and we have company. You've probably already been bombarded by news media about how it went down. The landing, hours and hours of waiting each other out, and finally, contact. But what you might not know is that I was among the first group delegated to meet the Vorus. Barely acknowledged by my own kids, and they're the same species, so that wouldn't be my first choice, but it's not like we account for the diplomatic corps every time we launch a ship. So, how was it? First contact, you ask? Pretty okay. Sorry if you were hoping for a more enthusiastic recap, but I came here to research high-fidelity isotopes, not shake hands with aliens. Me, 2 senior army officers, and the facility administrator were sent in to make peace with the Indians. Tall, bulky, humanoid. All heavily armed and male, I think. We encountered a few of them kneeling over a promethium rift joining hands. Not a very good start to interrupt a prayer session, but after the initial bemusement, they took a few steps back, waiting for our move. A few terrifyingly long minutes passed in silence. and I remembered having a spare test tube in my pocket, so without further ado, I walked over, took a small sample from the rift, and offered it to them. Hey, I was getting cold standing there. The Vorus exchanged a few grunts, and I was sure that they were going to eat us alive. But no, they took the tube and exchanged it for their portable drilling gear, which nearly flattened me. Start the white smoke. As it turned out, we do have a diplomatic corps. Linguistics is a hobby of one of my colleagues, Dr. Solemn. We couldn't wait months for the UE to send in their specialists or keep bartering with the Vorus. So off went Jeremiah Solemn, with a smile as wide as his face, to establish some sort of common understanding between our species. It took a while, but it seemed the Vorus were as eager to talk as we were. As Jerry put it, they have a delightful language based on the simple principle of always branching out from the word want. After he nailed down the basics on paper, a few of our engineers programmed a simple verbal translator. First real test run is tomorrow, as the Vorus want to send emissaries. Something fantastic happened today. I don't want to sound like a teenager finally getting an invite to the prom, but the Vorus delegation offered their help with NX-01 development. Apparently they had quite a head start and have a much wider grasp of its capabilities. I think seeing that we were here first, they want to collaborate, splitting the output 50-50. That's a pretty good deal in my book. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to get the Nobel Prize for advances in nanoscience, but let's be realistic. Earth needs this sooner rather than later. Oh, right, the Vorus gave us one condition. The tech must be used solely for industrial development and not warfare. They couldn't, or wouldn't, explain why this was so important to them. We're waiting for an answer from UE Council. Let's hope this doesn't flop. Good news! We received a green light from home. We were ordered to establish a working relationship with the Vorus and assess what their tech can actually do, then brief the UE Council in 1 week's time. An official representative will be sent from Earth to formally sign an agreement with them, provided they deliver, of course. And speaking of representation, the aliens sent one of their own. Her name is Karka, and it is a she, nearly half the size of a male Vorus warrior, but makes it up with the huge headdress and robes a 15th century Chinese emperor wouldn't say no to. Oh, and get this, she's the High Engineer, supposed to help integrate their tech into ours. Go figure. I watched some newsfeed my friend sent over from home. Of course, the stream had to be well hidden and heavily encrypted, as UE sensors will sugarcoat everything that happens on Earth. And it's not a pretty sight. The Arab League is threatening to torch the last drop of oil on the whole planet. And again, our good socialist UE state responded with the whole explore every option for the good of mankind rhetoric. Assholes. We are up to our knees in shit. Global markets collapsing one by one, poverty spreading rampant, and the only thing that they can think about is how to wind each other up like kids in preschool. We need Promethium. And fast. We started work on the merging process. Okay, I will admit that I had Karka all wrong. I think the priestess outfit was just for show. As soon as she hit the lab, she changed into working clothes and went straight to it. I don't even think she sleeps. One evening I caught her sipping from a test tube. She looked at me and said, kaolinite. Kaolinite is a kind of silicone-rich clay, eatable in theory. So I took her to the kitchen and made my famous pasta alla ketchup, because that's the only thing I can cook since campus that doesn't spontaneously combust. And then we talked. Apparently Vorus society is strictly dual in nature. Men safeguard the species and women develop it. No patriarchy or anything, everyone is in the same boat. But why is it so important that we don't use their tech for any kind of weaponry? It is religion, it is taboo, she said. Fine by me. UE brass arrived today, which means a whole bunch of army ships and a Colonel Peyton put in charge of the negotiations. It's been 3 months since we started to integrate Vorus tech into our own. We now have a fully functional mine and refinery, which processes NX-01 into its fullest, most atomically dense state. We're gonna take the Vorus up on their offer then, I guess. Peyton wants the senior facility staff to attend a meeting at 1600 hours to discuss orders from Earth. I wonder what they'll cook up this time. I cannot believe it. I just knew they wouldn't let it go. Peyton herded us into a conference room and announced it was the Council's decision to go ahead with establishing a weapons development program in secrecy. I told him, I tried to explain that the Vorus were very strict about our deal. Nothing. It was like talking to a wall with a sardonic, "get back to your little chemist set" smile painted on it. God damn it. How am I supposed to lie? Straight to Kodaka's face. She's been so cooperative, and putting my personal feelings aside, how is this going to help us anyway? I mean, hasn't Earth seen its share of WMDs during World War III? I'm going to send my veto through the official channels, but for now, I have no choice but to go along with it. Kotka invited me for a guided tour of the Vorus mothership today. I say guided as we were only allowed in low security clearance areas. I still got something between a scorn and a grunt out of every male we passed. She told me not to worry about it, that it's their thing. Men keep high hormone levels to be ready for battle. Women want to have it that way. Okay. And the ship? Let's just say it's not my idea of an alien super frigate. Most things barely run, fall apart, or are just about to. Kotka explained because the fleet ships still had weapons outfitted from a forgotten part of Vorus history. They were deemed unclean and couldn't be tended to except for life support systems. When I asked why, she gave me the silent treatment again, but then said we'll talk back on Prometheus 1. Now I know a little bit more. It wasn't easy for her to say to an outsider, but Kotka took my hands and told the story of her homeworld. The Vorus rely almost completely on Promethium as an energy resource. It was first encountered on their planet almost a century ago. Didn't take long before fights broke out for complete control. The Vorus society was always very much military in nature, and they only see two options to any conflict: total victory or complete defeat. Years later, a world emerged in utter ruin, but the Vorus learned their lesson. They centered their religion on Promethium. As they understood it, brushing against total annihilation meant the element wanted something more for them. Some story, right? Since Kotka opened up to me, I can't help feeling resentment towards Peyton and the likes of him in UE Command, and to myself for hiding the truth from her. We've already managed to modify a few of our infantry weapons like the EL-05 minigun to focus and shoot impact particles of NX-01 the size of a fist. The process the Vorus have given us can easily be adapted to refine raw promethium in the gun's barrel. And that's only the proof of concept phase. Wait till we get a hold of the bigger arsenal. Somewhere deep inside, I already know we'll end up just like them. Is this karma, or am I just that sleepy? Oh God, this is just great. I've fallen asleep in the weapons research laboratory and Kotka found me. When I woke up, she just stood there looking at me, disappointed, angry. Before I understood what had happened, she stormed the place and started tearing everything apart. It took me a while to calm her down into non-alert security, but still rattled, she yelled at me, saying if her people found out, I would be executed on the spot. And she took off. I feel like a traitor. She's not even the same species. I'm all alone again. Kotka now spends most of her time locked away in her quarters. She didn't tell anything to her people, obviously, because I can still feel my head sitting firmly on my shoulders. The way she looked at me. I remember Faye having the exact same look when I told her that she had to stay with her father for the duration of the mission. Chris and I are divorced. The same reason, as you no doubt have deduced. Would I have done it differently if I could have a rerun? No. I'm doing this for them. Both of them. At least the official bit. I don't blame Chris, and I hope he finds someone more suitable to family life than someone who just got knocked up and lived through it. Yep, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health. My work is my partner. But God, she's a real bitch right now. Cheers. Mother of all hangovers. So good my patio is glassed because it always rains on this godforsaken asteroid. Hold it together, Karen. I just wish the council would respond to my messages. I mean, they are in way over their heads here. Just look at the Vorus soldiers doing their training. So much devotion. Now they're preparing for ritual cleansing after using their guns, I believe. Judging from how much damage they inflict when they spar with each other, I don't think I want to see it. Just how big the disaster to their home planet must have been to transform ruthless warmongers to these disciplined warriors. And if we continue down this path, can Earth hope to survive the same? I started these logs as a way to pass the time, but now it looks like they're going to be evidence in a courtroom. I overheard Peyton talking to his second in command. Son of a bitch is preparing to launch several strike teams to board the Vorus recon frigates in less than 10 hours. Progress has been slow since Kartika sabotaged half the lab. I blamed a critical chain reaction during an experiment. And now Peyton thinks he's losing points big time back home thanks to the setback, so he's just going to take the weapons instead. He's mad. I have to stop this. But his men have encrypted the uplink with UE Council beyond my clearance level. And Kartika has gone off somewhere yesterday and hasn't got back since. The clock's ticking. There's only one solution that I can think of, and it won't be pretty. I did it. I've spoken with the Vorus warriors. They were anxious at first, but when I played Peyton's conversation, it's like they froze where they stood. Not 2 hours later, every last member of Vorus personnel was recalled to the mothership. Except for Kartika. She showed up in my quarters with a bottle of liquor. We're still talking about someone who can go for days on end on digestible chemical compounds. She said there was no more place for her in Vorus society. By deciding to hide our deception, she disgraced herself and was stripped of rank and position. And it's all my fault. She says she doesn't hold it against me, and now we all make the gravest of mistakes when we refuse to see we've long passed the point of no return, and then collapsed. She's sleeping now. I look up at the silent mothership in low orbit. Did I just swap one bloodshed for another? The gravity of what I've done just came back with a vengeance. The Vorus broke their silence. They sent a messenger saying the only way for our two species to coexist and move forward is to hand over every individual directly involved in the weapon modification experiments so that we can be cleansed and the shame wiped clean from our species. The messenger then promptly took out a gun and committed suicide. Looks like we're not even good enough to talk to anymore. And considering the ritual their warriors endure after just touching a weapon, I don't think any of us would live to tell the tale. Maybe I should feel some kind of remorse that my doing directly led to this, but I just feel a blunt anger rising inside, like a big cat trapped in a cage. More and more, I feel this journal will be nothing more than a testament to what happened on this rock when we're all dead. Peyton called a meeting today. Not just the senior staff, but an all-out circus parade in the cafeteria. He called the Vorus demands preposterous and an act of aggression, and that the UE doesn't negotiate with terrorists. All that nonsense spewing from his mouth wouldn't be so alarming if I wasn't aware of his true intentions. And he claims to have received orders from the Council for a preemptive strike on the recon fleet. And the people are so rattled from the Vorus messenger's suicide, they'll eat up anything he says, as long as it gives them a sense of security. The bombing started an hour ago. haven't stopped since. A few external corridors have already collapsed, but for now the base of Promethean 1 is holding. Main generators are fried, and in-house auxiliary backups won't last us very long. But this is happening, and Payton and his men have been captured, are dead, or worse. Not that it really makes me sad. They got what they deserved. But the look of dismay on our people's faces is proof enough. We are in over our heads this whole time. What remains of the army detachment and security forces are starting to barricade the place down. Since all comms are dead, the relay substation was the first thing to get hit. We're all just sitting here, waiting. Someone started a song to lift up spirits, but most were too shell-shocked to even notice. The Vors have invaded the station. God, that sounds absurd, considering we were working here side by side only a week ago. Everything has changed since. They're pushing the army, and us civilians with them, further and further towards the mined-out caverns. When I mentioned to one of the officers that they should try to break through one of the landing bays and try to launch some of the people in supply freighters, he barked back that if I want to be flattened by Vors airstrikes, I can go right ahead. And when I insisted, he bashed me hard across my face. I don't really blame him. He's just a kid who thought doing jumping jacks on some off-world colony would be as good an alternative to hanging around that decaying planet of ours. It's time to do something more productive than waiting around to be shot. The situation has deteriorated rapidly in a matter of hours. Karka and I have split from the main group, and not a moment too soon. They were attacked by 2 Vors Centurions and accompanying warriors. All of the soldiers were killed, and the remaining civilians herded away. The plan right now is to hide out until things calm down enough to make a run for the shuttle bay. We've always had a few on standby, ready for a quick launch in case our sensors detected a Promethean spike. Once we clear the asteroid's orbit, we can send out an SOS to command. Admittedly not the best escape plan in human history, but it's the only thing we've got. It's been 4 days since we hid away. The Vors have taken over most of Prometheus 1 now, mopping up any stragglers left and tearing out our hardware, probably to install theirs. I'm going back and forth between thinking whether any of my friends and colleagues made it, and how tired and hungry I am. Karka, on the other hand, remains calm and dispassionate, like a Buddhist monk knowing that Nirvana may be just around the corner. When I asked her about it, she said it's time we acted. After much debate, we've decided to use body bags to board the mothership. The Vors avoid interacting with the dead as much as possible, so we should make it. Once on board, we'll attempt to get to Karka's private lab and send out an SOS from there. You think I'm crazy for doing something like this, but it's better than sitting around starving. And Earth needs to know what's happening here. We've been successful in avoiding Vors patrols as we were able to squeeze in between the capsuled bodies of the dead Vors warriors. I'm not going to touch further on the subject. Sneaking around the ship, we've come across the cleansing of the captured science team. The term would suggest something more sublime than it actually was. A dagger to the throat. As I watch, the people I lived and worked with for so long, lined up and slaughtered, I know I have to try and send out that signal. Okay, we've made it to Karka's lab through countless ventilation shafts and crannies. Remarkably, everything is left intact. I've compiled a small message, tiny enough to hopefully go unnoticed or be taken for white noise due to miscalibration, but containing UE's header so that when it bounces off solar Morden waves, one of our ships will pick it up. Maybe. Unfortunately, I can't fit in the recording of Peyton's conversations, but a copy of it is in my quarters, safe for your review. At least some degree of... Oh, shit. No! I need to catch my breath. It was Peyton. I can't believe that bastard survived. Did he hide in that lab the whole time? God, what does it even matter now? Gotta rushed him. He nearly drove a metal pipe through my skull. A few passing guards took notice and stormed in. I barely got out of there. She's dead. God, I'm so sorry. Days pass like weeks. I'm so exhausted I don't even pay attention to the noises. It's just a matter of time now. I'm going to review and store some of my research on NX-01. I still have the strength to talk. That way maybe I'll have some closure. Some sense that this was not in vain, even if nobody ever hears this. I wanted to say something to you, Faye. It's not likely that you'll ever hear this, but in the event that you do, I want you to understand. I don't know how they'll portray these past events in the media. Will the government make martyrs out of us all, or bumbling idiots? The truth is, the blame lies somewhere in between. The retaliation from the Vors was brutal and unrelenting, maybe even unjust for us going back on the deal. Or maybe it's not right to perceive the world by our fixed standards. God knows they haven't been that high throughout our history. To their credit, Vors tried to resolve the situation as best as their strict doctrine allowed. And only time will tell if rejecting Prometheum's prowess for destruction was the right path to follow. I think I made a log when escaping the siege during its first hours, where I said this has all been a terrible mistake. If we can convince the Vors that Peyton was a rebel and acted solely on his own agenda, perhaps there can still be peace. If not collaboration. Bearing in mind that we both have the same goal, survival of the species. Very similar notions of greed have led us to depend on Prometheum. My dear Faye, my only hope is that you won't grow up in a world which fights fire with fire. I love you.